Okay, so we are recording. Let's get this microphone up and running. All right. Okay, so ggplot. How do you make a nice chart in R? All right. So to start off with, I've got some data that we've actually made earlier in our making dummy data section. So I'm just gonna load some packages and run that code. Okay, and the data is it's rank your top three reasons, or reasons for doing this course, for example. Okay, so people they pick three and they rank them 1 to 3. You get it. All right. So how do we make a stacked bar chart with this data? So with ggplot, there's two options, right? So you can aggregate your data, or you can not aggregate your data. So let me just show you what I mean. So that's our response data. We could just count selections and selection rank. So if we do that, now we know how many people ranked for a career change as their first reason. 9 people. Okay. So if we want, we can take this data and we can pipe it in to ggplot. But I thought I'd cover first if we don't do that. Okay. So if we leave it with 1 row per response. Okay. So if we pipe that into ggplot, the first function just says, okay, we're making a ggplot plot. The second function is AES, and that lets you set up your axes and which columns are going to control different aspects of the chart. So straight off the bat, we got selections. We know that is going to be an axis, and then we know we're also going to want fill by selection rank. Well, for the time being, let's just forget about that. Okay, so how many overall results were there for each selection? So we do g on bar and we run it. Just over here, we can see these are all the responses, and to make it a tiny bit neater, we can coord flip, which just rotates it. Okay, so this is actually a count of the rows. So we could just, to test it, so for a career change, got 23, and then on the chart, 23. So by default, D on bar is counting the rows for each axis option. So you might say it's doing this, so the stat of the bar is by default, it is count. So when I run this, we're going to get no difference. See, same thing. So the default operation of G on bar is to count the rows. So that's great. We can now go ahead and add in our fill. So that's saying, okay, I want you to break this down by the rankings that each response was given. So we run that. We get nothing. I think we've got to make it a factor. Yeah, okay. So what that's done is it said break down the responses by the actual rankings that were given. And so this many people gave to increase earning potential as their third reason. So I'd like that actually be the first reason. So I'm going to FCT reverse. Because currently when I apply factor to selection rank, given that it is a numeric, given that's a numeric one, the levels of that factor are simply going in numerical order. And they're displaying in reverse numerical order. So I need to double reverse them to get them in the right order that I want. But now the legend is in the incorrect order. So I'm going to add a legend. Oh no, I think it's reverse. Yeah, so I've got a little snippet I use that reverses the legend. So that's worked correctly. And then I also want to labs the fill. I want that to be ranking with a capital R. Okay, so now that's a bit more of a tidier. I might just make In this case, remember it's the x-axis. I just want to replace this selections with nothing. Okay, so I could have also gone x equals to specify that the x-axis originally, before the chord flip, was selections. So once again, this makes no difference. Okay, so that's if I don't aggregate the data. The next question is, well, what happens if I want to aggregate the data? How do I do that? So here we go back to our aggregated data. We can actually copy this whole thing here. That's still the same. Up to about, well, no, the whole thing is the same. But there's one crucial difference. So when I run this, even just up to there, it's not working, because we've defined how big we want the length of the bars here. And I've just, one second. So even that won't work. Oh, it did work. Made me a liar. Okay, so what's happening here is that because we've got one row per selection and selection rank, it's making each bar chart size 1. So it's counting the number of rows. But I don't want that to be the case. I want the Y value, so the length of these bars, to be defined by the column N. When I run this, it's not going to work. Okay? And the reason why is because it's trying to count, it's confused. So it wants to count the number of rows, but we've told it that the length of the bars is defined by the column N. But it doesn't know exactly how to work this. So we've got to tell it the stat is going to be identity. So pretty much make the bars as big as the identity of these numbers here. So that is going to work. Cool. So that should be exactly the same as that one there. Was it? Yeah, it's the same. Cool. So that's how you make a chart. Aggregated versus non-aggregated. There's also the question of how we're going to add in labels to these various amounts. So I'll cover that in another video. Okay, getcha.